Now, for this week, I really wanted to do a review on the epic film known as The Giant Claw, but I found out that it isn't public domain, and it's owned by Columbia Pictures. Yeah, someone still owns this shitty film after all these years. I mean, who would want to? And quite frankly, for once, I decided I just could not be bothered to do all the fannying about over copyright claims being fired at me by several different companies or people at the same time, all claiming to own the film. And it's a really big shame because The Giant Claw is just so unintentionally funny. And if you like crap films, then I urge you to get around to seeing this whenever you can. The monster looks like, and actually is, a pathetic marionette puppet on strings, and the rest of the movie is just utter crap. And it truly is amateur filmmaking at its worst, and yet it's also comedy gold. So I'm just going to score it right now, 5 out of 10, and that's just for the sheer hilarity value. Okay, now we're done with that, let's get on to this week's review. Another epically bad film from times gone by. Curse of the Swamp Creature. Honestly now, this film is astoundingly bad. Now, the first 3 minutes of this epic masterpiece introduce us to the villain of the film, this wacky scientist, who's finished experimenting on some poor bugger and is dumping the body into his swimming pool, into his swamp. A swamp which he claims is all his. Is it even legal to own a swamp? Not that I particularly care, but whatever. Now, it's unclear what the scientist is doing at the start of the film, and it's a rather confusing opening, as this guy rushes in looking for his missing brother, attacks the scientist, and before you know what's going on, in storms a second guy who kills the first guy, and the scientist then tells us a little more of nothing.
You seem to have forgotten that I want no visitors. No one must enter the swamp. Whoever attempts to enter the swamp, if they get by the quicksand, I want you to stop them. My work must be protective. Keep all strangers out of my swamp.
So then we move on to this bar/hotel, where a guy called Driscoll West is talking to the barman and some woman called Brenda. And Driscoll casually references working in the oil business, so Brenda asks him if he's here to look for oil in the swamps, and then he storms off. Well, it's a fair assumption, innit? No need to be a dick about it, Driscoll. And while this goes on, an accomplice of the barman and Brenda named Richie, and no, he's not remotely interesting or an immortal swordsman, just a quick Highlander TV series reference there, and he's sneaking around Driscoll's room looking for something, I don't know what. So Brenda telephones the room to tell him to get out as Driscoll is coming back, and check this out.
Get out of there.
The phone didn't even ring. How did he know to pick it up? Amazing.
What are you doing, boy? I'm just using the phone.
Brilliant reply. Now witness the most amazing fight ever. Then a minute later, Driscoll dies, and I guess he got stabbed, but it's impossible to tell. So they dump Driscoll's body in the swamp, and Brenda calls herself Mrs. West from now on, to fake this guy named Barry for whatever reason. So the next day, Barry, Mrs. West, Richie and some other guy who's their guide go on a long boring trip into the swamps on a boat to I can only assume to look for oil. So after 30 minutes of this film, we're finally back with the mad scientist, which is what we've been waiting for, feeding his pet alligators in his swimming pool swamp. I'm sorry, but it's just so obviously a swimming pool. They don't even try to hide this fact, and that is clearly stock footage of alligators. This film must have had no budget whatsoever. But I give them credit for making something out of very, very little. Now, the mad scientist tells his assistant Tom he wants to see some results by night time. So fast forward to the evening and let's see what Tom has to show us. Wow, a green hand and some smoke. Great. Check out this masterful editing.
To create life, to move it at will up and down the evolutionary path. That's something. Something I don't think you quite appreciate, Tom. That's all for tonight, Tom.
But...
Good night.
Man, I have to admit I laughed. Moments like this are why I watch these shitty old films. The oil hunting group are trying to sleep, but Brenda then says to Barry,
"What is it?"
I'm frightened. I can't sleep too good, and I think I hear snakes crawling.
It's just your imagination.
"You can't sleep well." Well, it is the middle of the fucking day in the background. So the mad scientist's wife, who the scientist generally has locked away, finds Tom his assistant, who has become the next experiment. Oh god, look at that. One wimpy chop knocks down a 6-foot brick shithouse. Whatever. I love how the doctor says you failed me again, but we haven't even seen this dude before a minute ago.
You failed me again. One more slip up, and I'll have to dismiss you.
Now, many things that happen or that people do in this film never get explained. You're just somehow meant to know what is going on. Why does that tree log make the sound of a drum? Why is there a random tribe in the middle of nowhere dancing? Why are parts of the audio not in sync? And why does the scientist randomly not have his glasses on in several scenes, and then in the next scene, there they are on his face? He obviously doesn't need them, so why wear them?
You're ready to come off the preserver and make your debut in the world of humans. My beautiful, indestructible fish man.
Oh god, I don't know what to make of that line. I really don't. It's just unbelievable. It's hilarious and bad and classic all at the same time. The group arrive at the doctor's swamp house and he agrees to let them stay the night. And as Tom died, he decides to use Mrs. West as his new experiment. The 6-foot black dude kills the other security dude working for the doctor. A tribal dancer gets chased by Richie and she pushes him into quicksand, and he dies. Laughably.
Help me! It's quicksand! Help me, please!
And up to this point, it's been an hour and 15 minutes, and apart from what I've said in this review so far, not much has happened. So with 5 minutes left to go, let's just get on with it, shall we? The tribe appear at the doctor's house, and they shoot the guide for no reason at all. The titular swamp creature actually makes a goddamn appearance in the film with 4 minutes to go. The scientist and his wife try to command the Mrs. West monster what to do. The Mrs. West monster realises what she's become and grabs the mad scientist, and they both fall into the swamp. And then they're eaten by stock footage alligators. And the two remaining characters, Barry and the scientist's wife, get in a plane and fly away. The end. 3 out of 10.